Hello and welcome everyone to our first, hopefully annual, biography speech presentations. If anyone wants to help me think of a flashier name, let's talk later. So our students have worked very hard over the course of this month. On the 1st of October, I told them about this project. Each of them selected a person from history who they wanted to do research on. Everyone wrote a 5-paragraph essay on their person, and then from that information research and from writing that paragraph, they then made a speech about their person. Now, as you'll see, there was an option to dress as your person, but no one had to. So we have a combination of some people who dressed up and some people who hadn't. And they, in true Montessori fashion, have chosen their own order for how they're going to present. And without further ado, I will give you my class.
I was born on July 24th, 1898. I have a sister named Merle. She's 2 years younger than me. When I was 8 and my sister was 9, I built a roller coaster and almost fell out of the cart. When I was in Toronto, Canada with Merle, I saw 4 wounded soldiers. I decided right then to be a nurse's aide. And I brought them food and medicine. I brought food and medicine to them. One day, I borrowed a dog from the Nicholson's guard dog. One morning in California, I picked up the newspaper. I read that there was going to be an air show in Los Angeles. After the air show, my father asked how much it was for flying lessons. It was a lot of money, but eventually I got flying lessons. The first time I flew, I loved flying. It was the first time I was the first woman to fly over the Atlantic Ocean. Later, I was heading towards an island in the Pacific Ocean, but I disappeared at age 35. Now, I need to return the dog I borrowed.
Hello, my name is Bronisław Hugumek. I saved over 1,000 Jews during the Holocaust. I also played the violin and became famous for playing the violin. I was born
It's okay.
Częstochowa, Poland on December 19th, 1882. I stopped taking violin lessons at age 14. My parents were Jewish, but I was born in Poland, so that makes me a Jewish Polish. My violin is a Stradivarius violin, so my violin sounds very beautiful and it's really expensive. If you play the note on my violin correctly, it will sound better than a regular violin. I was extremely good at the violin. My violin is over 300 years old. I started doing my tour at age 4 years old. I only did one tour. During the Holocaust, I created an orchestra to save the Jewish people. I was lucky to have a Stradivarius violin. Because the music the Jewish musicians played was so beautiful, they were spared from going to concentration camp. I died in Corsair, Switzerland, June 14th, 1947. I was on my tour and got stuck in Switzerland. I was stuck in Switzerland until World War II ended, and I fell ill of exhaustion and never got my strength back. Where I was buried is unknown. I hope history remembers me as a great violinist and a great person for saving over 1,000 Jews during the Holocaust. Thank you.
Hi, I am Salvador Dali. I'm a Spanish artist from the 1930s and I'm known for one of my paintings called The Persistence of Memory. The painting's first showing was in 1931 and that's when it got popular. I was named after my father, Salvador Dali y Cruz, and my full name is Salvador Domingo Felipe Jacinto Dali y Domenic. In the 1920s, I traveled to Paris and began to interact with other artists such as Picasso, Magritte, and Miro. I have painted over 1,500 paintings, and my father's side of the family were staunch atheists, and my mother's were devout Catholic. My father and I did not believe in God. My wife and I got married in 1934, and she was born on September 7, 1894, and she died on June 10, 1982. She lived to age 87. I was born on May 11, 1904, and I died on January 23, 1989. I died from congestive heart failure, and I lived to age 84. My favorite color is Naples yellow, and I got expelled from art school twice, but I still have a museum dedicated to me. It's currently located in St. Petersburg, Florida. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Albert Einstein. You may have heard me. Some people say that I'm the smartest person who has ever lived. A few things that I've discovered and invented are E equals mc squared, the theory of relativity, the refrigerator, Pythagorean theorem, and photoelectric effect. I was born in Ulm, Germany in 1879 to a Jewish family. I taught myself algebra and Euclidean geometry over a single summer, and I also independently discovered the Pythagorean theorem. This all happened when I was 12 years old. Our family moved around a lot when I was a kid. Moved from Germany to Italy and then to Switzerland. Even though I'm super smart, I actually failed out of high school. When I lived in Switzerland, I met my wife, Mary. My parents did not approve of her because she was Orthodox Catholic. As my father was dying, he gave me permission to marry Mary in 1903. We had 3 kids, Lee, Cyril, Hans, and Edward. During this time, I was very productive. In 1900, my paper, Conclusions from the Capillarity, was published. In 1905, I completed my thesis with Alfred Kleiner, professor of experimental physics. In that same year, I published 4 papers on the photoelectric effect, gravity and motion, special relativity, and the equivalence of mass to energy. In 1911, I wrote 11 scientific works, 5 of them on radiation, mathematics, and the quantum theory of solids. Unfortunately, after all this work, Merrick and I got divorced in 1919. The last 40 years of my life, I spent trying to defy gravity and electromagnetism. In 1955, I passed away from internal bleeding. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lee Jun Pham, but you can call me Bruce Lee. I was born on November 27th, 1940 in Hong Kong, China. I brought Chinese martial arts to the world through my movies. I went to Washington State University. My martial arts teacher, Ip Man, taught me Wing Chun. After that, I went back to the U.S. abandoning my master Ip Man. I created Jeet Kune Do from Western boxing and Chinese martial arts. My movies are about fighting and martial arts, and in most cases, I play the underdog but come back and win. When I tasted my own blood, I got angry. Not your average angry, your smoke coming out of your ears angry. I made high-pitched chicken noises. I was flashy. Sometimes I even played ping pong with my nunchucks. I was one of the first people to master the 1-inch punch and demonstrated it publicly. I'm very healthy. I don't think I will die unless it's from some crazy thing like cerebral edema. My movies popularized nunchucks like these.
Hi, my name is Marie Curie. I discovered radium and polonium. Before I came to France to study, my name was Maria. My father loved to make any conversation into a meaningful lesson. When I was younger, I always dreamed of being a scientist, similar to my father. I was born on November 7, 1867 in Warsaw, capital city of Poland. Poland wasn't really a country back then because all of the neighboring countries took over and split into 3 parts. I lived in the part that Russians owned. Russians hated Polish people and had very strict rules about them. You couldn't do anything that relates to the Polish culture. In school, I was the smartest one in my class. I knew all the answers in Polish and Russian. When it was time to go to college, I was so excited, but my family didn't have enough money for more than one sibling to go at a time. So my sister would go first after my brother was done with medical school, and I would stay in Poland and work until she graduates. A while later, I got invited to France to study because my sister graduated. There, my friends introduced me to my future husband, Pierre Curie. Later, we married in France, July 26, 1895. Then later, I had 2 kids named Irene and Eve. Pierre and I studied together and eventually discovered radium in 1902. In 1903, we got our first Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, in 1906, Pierre died. I was very sad for a time, but later I got back into things and eventually got my Nobel Prize in 1911 for discovering polonium. But sadly, in 1934, I died from aplastic anemia, a blood disease that is caused by overexposure to radiation. Thank you.
My name is Neil Armstrong. I was born on August 5th, 1930, in Ohio. My parents moved a lot of times, and they liked Wapakoneta, Ohio. When I was 6, I experienced my first plane flight in Warren, Ohio. When I was older, I went to Purdue University. While I was in college, I left to fight in the Korean War, where I was a naval aviator pilot. When I came back, I got my degree. Later, I was a professor at University of Cincinnati. I was the first person to walk on the moon. I married Jenna Elizabeth Sharon on January 28, 1930. We had 3 children. Their names were Mark, Karen, and Eric. Karen died when she was 3. She had a brain tumor. A year after Karen died, I and my family moved to Houston, Texas. We moved because I joined the astronaut program. In 1963, I almost died on my first mission. The space mission was called the Gemini. My lunar module sped out of control, and I had to inject 2 seconds before it crashed. I landed in the Pacific Ocean. On July 20th, 1969, Buzz Aldrin, Mitchell Collins, and I went to the moon, and the space mission was called Apollo 11. The lunar module was called the Eagle. The Eagle almost ran out of landing fuel, but we made it. After it landed, we waited 6.5 hours. Aldrin was not the first because he was not the mission commander. After 20 minutes, Buzz climbed down the ladder and joined me. Then we put the American flag up to show that we were the first people to walk on the moon. When I went down the ladder, I put my left foot on the moon first. I died August 25th, 2012. I was 82. I died because they messed up on my ceremony. I was buried in the Atlantic Ocean. Even though I died, I will forever be remembered as one of the greatest heroes. I helped the discovery and beginning of race to space. Thank you.
I am Maria Montessori. I created the Montessori curriculum and opened the first Montessori school, a children's house, on January 6, 1907. I was born in Cherville, Italy on August 31st, 1870. I developed a curiosity curiosity in education instead of educational thinking. I questioned how people were taught. In 1907, I accepted a new challenge to open a child care center in a poor inner city district. Children, wild at first, but soon showed great curiosity in working with puzzles, learning to prepare meals, and manipulating materials that held lessons in math. I observed how they learned from their surroundings and created learning materials. For the rest of my life, I dedicated myself to advancing my child-centered approach to education. I lectured, wrote articles and books, and developed a program to prepare teachers in the Montessori method. Through my efforts and the work of my followers, Montessori education was adapted worldwide. As a public figure, I also campaigned on behalf of women's rights. I wrote and spoke periodically on the need for greater opportunities for women, and was recognized in Italy and beyond as a leading feminist voice. I pursued my ideas in difficult times. Living through war and political catastrophe inspired me to add peace education to the Montessori curriculum. Traveling in India in 1940, when wars between Italy and Great Britain broke out, I was forced to live in exile for the rest of the war. I took that opportunity to train teachers in my method. At war's end, I returned to Europe, spending my final years in Amsterdam. I died peacefully in a friend's garden on May 6, 1952, because of a hemorrhagic stroke. Thank you. Hello, my name is Harriet Tubman. I am remembered as a woman who worked in the Underground Railroad with slaves. I brought more than 300 slaves in over 19 trips. My first trip was by myself to Pennsylvania. When I got to Pennsylvania, I looked at my hands and said, I am in freedom. I was born in 1850. Some people call me Moses. Moses was also a man that was in the Bible. I'm called Moses because just like him, I helped slaves escape slavery. I started working in the Underground Railroad in 1850. The Underground Railroad is not a railroad underground. It is a secret passageway for slaves to get to the south or the north. In the Underground Railroad, there are things like Quaker houses and quilts. Maybe in 2026, I am going to be on a $20 bill. You might have a whole wallet full of them. I died of pneumonia. Pneumonia is a disease when you get your lungs full of water. When I was 6, I was sewed to a lady named Miss Cook. When my slave owner took me away from my family to work for Miss Cook, I felt like I was never going to see my family again. But after about 5 years, I saw my family again. That was my story, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and have a good day.
Hi, I'm Muhammad Ali. I was born January 17th, 1942. I'm an activist and a heavyweight champion. When I was younger, I wasn't the best fighter, but I was fast. When my bike got stolen, I got mad and I reported it to the police. I wanted to fight the person that stole my bike. When the officer heard me say that, he offered me boxing lessons. When he offered me the boxing lessons, I took the offer, and after a while of sparring people, I made my own fighting style. It's where you dodge the opponent's attacks, tire them out, then go for the knockout. When I got better at boxing, I got noticed by a real boxer and he invited me to his gym. And when I got older, I became an activist and trained by the religion to Islam, and I had the church name to Muhammad Ali. I went to the because I refused to fight in the Vietnam War. The reason is because the military doesn't care about African American people. They want me to fight for them so I could possibly die. I've been discriminated by white people my whole life, so I didn't want to fight. I died June 3rd, 2016 of septic shock.
Hi, my name is Audrey Hepburn. My original name is Ella Catherine Hepburn Weston. I was born May 4th, 1929 in Brussels, Belgium, and I attended school in England as a child. When I was a child, I wanted to be a ballerina, but I was too tall, but I still loved dance. In 1935, my parents divorced. In 1929, at the onset of World War II, my mother moved me to the Netherlands, thinking that neutral country would be safe and secure. Unfortunately, the Nazi troops marched into the country. My family and 40 other people hid in a small house in the country. The house had no heat and no food. In fact, my family made flour to the wolves. During the war, I still managed to attend school and take ballet lessons. During this time, me and a few other girls did ballet performances to raise money for the resistance, but the audience could not clap. One day, there was a knock on the door and everyone froze. Had we been discovered? Turns out it was actually some volunteers from the UN who came to bring food, clothing, and medicine, and announced that the war was over. Then my mother and I moved to London, and I soon realized that my dream of being a ballerina was not going to become a reality. During my early 20s, I studied acting and began to get some small film roles. I became a Broadway actress for the play Gigi. Even though I had little experience, I worked hard and it paid off. Then I was in a famous movie called Roman Holiday, and I won an Oscar award even though I was so new to movie life. I was then in 14 other movies and won 23 other awards, including the Presidential Award of Freedom. I left acting to be with my sons, but once my children grew up, I decided to put my name to good use. And in 1988, I became a Goodwill Ambassador for UNICEF, with the same organization that helped me during the war. People remember me for my movies, my kindness, the Audrey Lupin fashion, and my humanitarian work. I died January 20th, 1993. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hypatia. I was born around 350 to 370 AD in Alexandria, Egypt. And I died in March 415. We'll talk about that later. I was a woman who believes men and women are equals, and I wanted to be treated that way. When I was young, my father Theon treated me as his son, not daughter. He raised me the way boys are raised, and soon he taught me his trade. My father wanted me to learn, so I did. He taught me everything I know, and I became a Hellenistic Neoplatonic philosopher, astronomer, and mathematician. Neoplatonism is a philosophy that believes in a divine being, the One. I taught many people to break away from the world of matter by searching for the soul. I call the I buried within us. In other words, what I'm trying to say is one must look at all the divine in the real world to realize there was something that created. I believed in many gods, which means I'm pagan. I believed in the Greek gods, even though at the time ruled Egypt. During my life, I taught many people, and I even became close to some of my pupils. Orestes was one of my students, and we soon became close friends. As we grew closer, Orestes became the Roman prefect of Alexandria, and I became one of his advisors. This means when he was having trouble deciding on a conflict, he would ask me for my opinion on the matter. In March 415, Orestes was in the middle of an argument with Cyril, the bishop of Alexandria. Orestes was having trouble on deciding if they should reconcile. Soon he came to me. I told him he should not, but I only told him my beliefs and opinion. His decisions were his own. Soon I was accused of keeping them from reconciling, and not long after, a mob of angry Christian monks murdered me while I was walking home from class. I was a legacy, and I was a brave adversary of science. I may have invented many instruments, but I hope the biggest impact I made was anybody could be a thinker if they tried. Reserve your right to think, I used to say, for even to think wrongly is better than not to think at all.
Hello, my name is Jonah Sau. I was born in 1914 and died in 1995 due to congestive heart failure, and I was born and raised in New York City. I made the vaccine that protects people from polio. People usually get the vaccine when they are babies. Polio attacks a person's muscles, making walking and breathing difficult and dangerous. Over 9,000 people in New York City have been infected with polio, and 2,500 of them died. My mother put me on strict routines and diets. She would rinse my mouth and nose out with water and salt and balance my portions of meat and sugar. I would also stay away from other children who might carry the disease. I went to high school when I was 12 years old and college when I was 15. I became a medical researcher so I could stop diseases from spreading instead of just curing people who already had them. In In 1938, a fundraiser called the March of Dimes was started to fight polio. Even President Franklin Roosevelt himself has died from polio. $2 million were raised for the March of Dimes. In 1939, I graduated from medical school and became a doctor. I worked at the University of Pittsburgh. In 1955, I developed the vaccine to cure polio. In 2017, there has been 28 reported cases of polio due to parents not vaccinating their children. This is because they believe vaccinations causes things such as autism, which is not true. The vaccine has been advanced throughout the years, so if you get vaccinated, you are guaranteed to be protected from polio. Thank you for listening.
My name is Clarissa Harlow Barton, but I would like you to call me Clara. I was a nurse during the Civil War, and I founded and led the American Red Cross for 25 years. Before we go into that, let me tell you a little about my personal life. I was born in Oxford, Massachusetts on December 25, 1821, to Captain Stephen Barton Sr. and Sarah Stone Barton. I have 4 siblings, Dorothea Barton, Stephen Barton Jr., David Barton, and Sarah Russell Barton. I lived and went to school in Oxford during my childhood, but as an adult, I moved around, partly because my jobs required it. Before the war began and my full-time job was on the battlefield, I worked as a teacher and then at the U.S. Patent Office for Charles Mason, the Commissioner of Patents. As a Civil War nurse, I spent a lot of time in the field, and on one occasion, I was nearly killed by a bullet that passed through my sleeve, and sadly killing the soldier I was attending to. During the war, I also supported the growing equal rights movement and tried to help slaves. Because of that, I met amazing people such as Susan B. Anthony, Francis D. Gage, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. When the Civil War ended, I worked to establish and promote the American Red Cross, inspired by the International Red Cross, which was based in Geneva, Switzerland. The Red Cross is an organization that works to provide aid during disasters. I think that my work on the battlefields with the American Red Cross is what people remember me most for. I'm very proud of that work and hope that many others follow in my footsteps, helping the world in any way that they can. Thank you.
My name is Steve. I am a famous crocodile and animal help. I was born February 22nd in 1962 in Sydney, Victoria, Australia. I have been working in helping animals since I was 4 years old. I explore wildlife with my dad and am very interested in wildlife, especially reptiles. When I was 9 years old, my dad opened a zoo called the Australian Zoo. That's when I started working with crocodiles. I like helping my parents with the zoo and feeding the animals there. When I was 14, I started my own show called The Crocodile Hunter. I used my excitement during the shows to educate people about endangered animals and loss of habitats. I met my future wife, Terry Irwin, while she was visiting the zoo. Terry also helped animals and loved them and rescued condors and other predator animals like lizards, crocodiles, and snakes. A few years later, we had a girl named Mindy. Then 6 years later, we had Robert. I was filming one of my episodes of The Crocodile Hunter on a boat with a crew. I spotted an 8-foot stingray. I jumped over it to get a closer look, but I immediately got stabbed, stabbing me in the chest, but stabbed me in the heart. At first, the crew did not think I was hurt, but when they found out, they pulled me onto the boat and rushed me to land. But it was too late. I did not survive. Since my death, my family has taken on a show called Crikey. Crikey is a show to educate people about wildlife and to continue shows in the Irwin family. My family has funded many organizations to raise money for animal conservation and loss of habitats all over the world. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erno Rubik, and I am into the world-famous puzzle and toy, the Rubik's Cube. I was born in Budapest, Hungary on July 13, 1944. My father's name was Erno Rubik Sr., making my name Erno Rubik Jr. My mother's name was Magdalena Mazda, and she was a poet and writer. My father was a flight engineer. I grew up during World War II, which was hard for my family, but I still attended school. My favorite subject in school was geometry and math. Every day I would come home and talk about math and geometry, and even sometimes engineering with my father. Even when I walked around Budapest, I saw geometric shapes in the architecture of the buildings. After I graduated high school, I went to college at the Budapest University of Technology. Later, after I graduated college, I went to teach architecture at the Hungarian Academy of Applied Arts. While I taught architecture at the college, I came up with the idea of a 3D puzzle, which was meant to be a challenge for my students. Later, it was going to turn out to be the Rubik's Cube. The Rubik's Cube was in its early stages because it was made of wood and rubber bands. After I figured out I could make money off of the puzzle, I tried to sell the designs to major toy companies, but they rejected my designs. But eventually I found a small Hungarian toy company that had accepted my designs, and it sold moderately well around the area. A few years later, I got a New York City-based toy company to mass produce my puzzle. While I'm still alive, my legacy still stands in cubes and the Cuban community. Now here are a few facts about Rubik's Cube. There are 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 different positions that a 3x3 Rubik's Cube can be in, which is a lot for a cube with 6 sides and 26 pieces. There are more than 45 different kinds of Rubik's Cubes and over 15 brands. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Biographical. I'm a painter who is remembered for the many paintings I made in the early 20th century. I was born on July 6, 1907 in Culiacan, Mexico City, Mexico, but I said my birthday was July 10, 1910, the year the Mexican Revolution started. When I was 6, I contracted polio and was in bed for 9 months. This resulted in my right leg being much thinner and shorter than my left leg, and that's why I always wear long skirts and dresses. When I was 18, a bus I was riding home from school crashed into a streetcar, and I fractured my legs, ribs, collarbone, and I would be unable to have children. I was in the hospital for several months, and I created some of my very first paintings. In 1929, I married Diego Rivera, but in 1939, I divorced him, and in 1940, I married him again. From 1940 to 1949, I struggled with my health and to make a living off my paintings. I traveled to the U.S. a lot because I needed surgery. During this time, I gained more appreciation for my art in the U.S. and Mexico. I traveled to New York to undergo a procedure to add a metal rod to my spine, but the operation was a fail. During my final years, I was mostly confined in my home, but I took a part in Mexico City's city councils. On July 13, 1954, I died in my home at the age of 47. Some people say I lived dying, but I always said, I am not sick, I am broken, but I am happy to be alive as long as I can paint. Thank you.
I was born in 1820 and immediately knew something was wrong when the doctor said, "Aw, it's a girl. Well, maybe she will grow up to marry a good husband with lots of money and have great children." You know what I said? That's messed up. My whole life, I grew up around a working woman. My father owned a cotton mill that my family worked at, but later, my father lost his cotton mill and had to find a new job. When I got older, I wanted to go to school, but girls can't learn, and you know what I said? That's messed up. Of course, when I was 3, my father taught me to read, write, and even do math. Anyway, because he believed in the Quaker religion. I thought that women should have the same rights as men, so when I was 18, I wrote and produced my first speech, and after, would talk to anyone that would listen. Wait. After many of the men in the crowd were surprised to hear a woman that had such a powerful voice. When I got older, I wanted to vote, but guess what? It's illegal for a woman to vote. You know what I said? That's messed up. At 28, I was supposed to marry, but in my time, if you got married, you lost all your rights on anything, even money or children. So instead of getting married, I devoted my life to women's rights. People tried to push me down, but I got up. People would tear down my banners, but I put them up. In 1872, I decided to test my rights to vote. I marched with 15 other women to the voting office. But on November 28th, I was arrested. At the trial, I was charged $100, which back then was way more. And you know what I said? That's messed up. And because I didn't pay a penny of that fine, because of a woman watching all over the USA, years after, women were allowed to control their money and share guardianship over their children. I died in 1906 at the age of 86. Even though women didn't get their rights until almost 100 years after I died, I still achieved my goal.
Hi, I'm Christopher Columbus. I am Italian and during in 1451 is have a navigator who
Worked.
worked for the Spanish. I was the first navigator to document me trips. He was named an admiral. The Spanish who asked me to do for long trips is discovered during trips. He discovered during me trips
And
I is in the Bahamas in October 1492. It is during me trips to Edo discover the American continent in August 1498 in Venezuela. Not United States. Columbus has the same point.
did not.
Did not give up the group
Brought.
what he planned to Ken Island and King Ferdinand of Spain. Unfortunately, Spain has 15 of Columbus had to hear 7 or 4 answer. Chile, it was the answer for the cat say yeah.
Hi, my name is Diana Frances Spencer. I was born on July 1st, 1961 in Swinburne, England. I was known for using my fame to help the people in need. When I was a little girl, my parents were one of the most rich people in England. When I was 6, I went to Riddlesworth Hall, an all-girl boarding school until I was 12. When I was 7, my parents divorced. My mom moved to France and my dad stayed home. In 1973, I went to another boarding school called West Heath. Before I married Prince Charles, I was a kindergarten teacher. When I married Prince Charles, we had 27 different kinds of wedding cakes that were served, including the official cake that stood 5 feet high. My wedding dress is one of the most famous wedding dresses in the world. It was made from 75 feet of ivory silk. Once I married Prince Charles, I had one of the most recognizable faces in the world. I died from a really bad car crash on August 31st, 1997. I was buried at the Oval Lake within Althorpe Park Pleasure Garden. Thank you. activist, but a lot of people know about this piece of what I did. Once I was sitting in the back of a bus when the bus driver came back leading a white man. He ordered me to give up my seat. I refused, and so he arrested me. Okay, I know I skipped over my childhood, but I will tell you now. I was a small child and was often sick, though I still managed to take care of my younger brother, Sylvester. I think that helped me learn to take care of myself. My birthday is February 4th, 1913, and when I was 10, I met a white boy named Franklin on the road. He spoke very rudely to me and threatened to hit me. I picked up a brick and dared him to. He walked away. One morning, shortly after, I absent-mindedly mentioned this to my grandmother. She scolded me harshly, which upset me very much, because I thought I should be allowed to defend myself in the best way I could. Because black people were allowed to do much like that. As a child, I had a very strong opinion about what was fair. That sometimes got me into trouble. In 1932, I married Raymond Parks and finished school. In that time, very few black people graduated from high school who didn't help me get a job. Eventually, though, I did get a job at St. Margaret's Hospital. We moved to Detroit and got jobs as activists. I died on October 24th at age 92 in 2005.
China, a place known for martial artists. I was a great Wing Chun master. I was born on October 1st, 1893. I was born with a wealthy family, and I was the third sibling out of my three. I started learning Wing Chun when I was 12. I learned a lot from my teacher, Chan Hua Shun. I moved to Hong Kong to flee from the invading Koreans. I went back to Foshan when I was 24, and I became a policeman. I also taught Wing Chun to my sons and other students. Most of my students moved after 2 months or so. My business was pretty poor because of all of that, but it was good teaching self-defense and skills. I taught Bruce Lee, my sons Ip Ching and Ip Chun. I also taught Liang Xiang, Lok Yu, Shu Shang Tin, Mo Ya, Lo Man Kong, and my nephew Lo Man Kong, and my close-door student Liang Tate. I had a brother named Yip Kai Gok, and I had 2 sisters, one Yip Wan Mei, and the other Yip Wan Hung. I had a wife named Chiang Wen Sing. I love my family dearly. I am grateful I have them.
Hello, I am David Dwight Eisenhower. I was the commander of U.S. forces in Europe during World War II. I think I should tell you how I began my military career and got this job. I was born on October 14, 1890 in Denison, Texas, but I grew up in Alpine, Kansas, where I moved to in 1891. My family was quite poor, and our father worked at a local creamery to support us. I got into the West Point Military Academy in 1911 and got out of it in 1915. I got married to Mamie Dudd in the year 1916. When the U.S. entered World War II, I beat 366 senior officers to be the commander of U.S. forces in Europe. During this job, I led the D-Day invasion. Now, maybe I should tell you about being president. Oh, by the way, I had 2 sons, one dying when he was 3 years old. My other son had a military career and was father to 4 children. I became president in 1953 and suffered from a heart attack. I had other health issues as well and was elected for a 2nd term as president. My term will end in 1961, and I believe I am going to die in 1969, and I want to be buried in Albion. That is all.
Hello, my name is Florence Nightingale. I was known for changing the way hospitals are organized and the way patients are treated. But first, let's get back to the beginning. I was born on May 12, 1820, while my parents were visiting Florence, Italy. My father, William Nightingale, taught my sister Parthenope and many languages. He also taught us history and math. Sometime later, I had decided to become a nurse, but my parents weren't happy with this decision. Eventually, though, they let me become a nurse. When I was 43 years old, I got a job as the superintendent of London's Institution for the Care of Sick Gentlemen in Distress Conditions. I improved the hospital in many ways and worked there for a year. During the time after I stopped working at the hospital, the British Army was fighting in the Crimean Wars. So when I was asked by the Secretary at war to assemble a group of nurses to bring to the military hospital in Scutari, Turkey, I agreed. The hospital was in abysmal condition when I arrived. Many men were lying on the floor, bleeding among insects and rodents. Soon I assembled a group of men who were well enough to clean up the hospital, and one of the things they did was remove not one but 2 dead horses from the sewer. I improved the hospital and fixed the sewers, and so the soldiers began to heal. I walked through the hospital corridors at night carrying a small lamp to see. That is why the soldiers called me the leader of the lamp. I had worked so hard that eventually I became extremely tired. Because of this, I had to take a break. Although I worked for many more years, I never truly recovered. Sometime later, I had fallen ill again and had to do the rest of my order from bed, though I continued to work hard. I died in my sleep on August 14th, 1910, when I was 90 years old. Even though it has been more than 180 years since my death, I'm still remembered to this day. So remember, if a patient is cold, if a patient is feverish, if a patient is faint, if he is sick after eating food, if he has a bed sore, it is generally the fault not of the disease but of the nursing. Now, I should be heading back to 1855 to be back in time for my nightly walk around the hospital corridors. Thank you for listening.
Wow. Could I get one more round of applause for everyone? What hard work you all have done. I don't know about you all, but I'm impressed. All right, so Mr. Bevan, can you take him back and I'll be back in just a minute? Excellent. I don't have anything substantial to say, but I did want to thank all of you for coming out. It means so much to my students to have you all here, to see them present their work, and having you all here to be an audience is indeed a part of their work because they feel very comfortable within the bounds of the classroom, and I need the ability to push their boundaries. And public speaking is something that we're all working on, and we will all continue to work on through the year. So thank you all very much. You get a round of applause. If you don't mind, I'll dissect them. All right, so yeah, thank you for coming. I hope you all have a lovely Halloween. And I will see you all in the future and your children in just a few minutes.